Hey everybody, I hope that you're all doing well. The first two cards that we have are Page of Pentacles and Six of Swords. On the Six of Swords, I'm only seeing part of the card, the way that it flew out. I'm seeing something here that looks like, I think that it's a rainbow on the card, but before I pick it up and get the full view of it, I'll show you guys. What it is looking like to me is something to have to do with rays, so it can be like color rays, something on the color spectrum, and it feels like something that's there, something that's visible, but it also feels at the same time like you can kind of see through it as well. This is what I was feeling drawn to. This part specifically, how you can see through it, but you can also still see that there too. Okay, so we have Page of Pentacles and we have Six of Swords, and we also have Four of Swords. I feel like something that you've been going through. Okay, Six of Swords and Four of Swords, if we add them together, it's the Ten of Swords. This is feeling to me like something is closing out that's been challenging to move through. It can be something that you've been trying to figure out. I would say now at this point, you can be in a spot where it feels like things are moving along now, and you can feel kind of at ease now because whatever this is that needed to be figured out, it's now been figured out. And I'm hearing spectrum, and it actually feels like you're moving into a space where you can relax, because both Six of Swords and Four of Swords are connected with that. And I feel too like something that you've been working on, something that you've been tending to here, it feels like it is moving along now. So I don't get a feeling of being stuck at all. If anything, I'm seeing things move forward, but also not in a rush because we have that Four of Swords there. So you can feel at ease, like I'm where I'm supposed to be right now. I figured out what I needed to figure out. Why I'm saying you figured something out is because we have the swords here. When we have the swords, there's something that we're thinking about. There's something that's going on that we're working through. But because of having Six of Swords next to Four of Swords, I feel like you have completed this, whatever it was that you need to figure out. So now things can move along. Okay. There may be something here where you need to check in with your energy. I feel like something is cooking, but it's not ready to be put out there yet. It feels like it's in the process of developing. So that may be the next part of what you're doing here. It feels like when this matures, you're going to be able to express it in some way. So this can be an idea that you have. It can be something creatively even that you've been working on here. It can be a move that you want to make. It can be something that you've been figuring out within your personal life. I do feel like this is going to impact you in some type of practical way. There is an involvement. Some of you too with Page of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles can possibly be getting help with something to move along, so that's also here too. Could have actually been something that you're feeling quite stuck with and maybe weren't moving past for a while. I feel like something here is being realized. The reason why I feel like something isn't totally, fully, 100% ready to be animated yet is because when the sun came out, it didn't come out totally upright. And so this feels to me like you are still in the process of realizing something. I feel like you realize something major so that whatever is the next part of this you're going to be working on. So it feels like if this is all contained within the same process, I feel like you're going to the next level of that process, and that's what Six of Swords and Four of Swords is about. And you can even be sort of plotting where the next move is that you're going to be making. With Queen of Pentacles, this is going to have to do with something having to do with your everyday is the feeling that I'm getting from Queen of Pentacles here. And it's also about your own standards and your own desires or your own needs or your own personal goals that you have and your own personal investments as well. Having the sun come out in the way that it did feels like you are working through something, you're putting your focus into it, and when you get to the point where this is ready to be expressed, you're going to do it. What you can be realizing in the meantime as you're moving through this process is that something had you locked in a way that you didn't want to be. We have the devil here, and I'm seeing the devil be connected with the sun. So this can be like, I'm realizing where I got stuck. I'm realizing where I got caught up. I'm realizing where I was trapped, where fears were keeping me tethered in a way that I didn't want to be, where something was keeping me caged in. Even this can be like the habit, ritual of some sort that keeps you in a space where you feel like you're not free. And so you can be realizing this, but I feel the way that the sun came out, like this isn't, you're not totally there yet. I think you're taking a step up, so it shows that you're making progress here. But as far as this whole thing, it's not totally figured out yet, but it can be something that you feel very much you're in the process of realizing here. And I feel like this is something really big, because the way that the devil works is that it almost seems like, it can seem like a non-issue, like, oh, maybe that's just something that all of us have to deal with or whatever. And then you take a closer look at it and you're like, no, it doesn't have to be like this, but you may not have been seeing that before. So it could have been, the way that the devil is feeling to me is like being in a cage without realizing that you were in a cage, and now you're becoming aware that you're surrounded by bars. So to have that feeling where you're like, oh, I'm actually locked inside of here, I feel like there's a realization happening where you have found that out and now your perspective is shifting because of it. But I don't think that the whole problem is totally figured out. Well, I don't know if it, like, you would label it as a problem. Maybe some of you guys would. I don't want to like offhandedly give it a label that you may not resonate with. It's just, it feels like something that you are tending to, something that you are working through, and something that you can be at this point realizing is, I feel like there's a better word to call it than problem. It's like a situation, a circumstance that you are in that you're realizing maybe a bit different than you thought that it was. Because before, I really do get this feeling with the devil that you could have like not realized that you were in this cage before. And now, in you realizing it, it's reminding me of the quote, and I don't remember what the quote is entirely, but it's something about being like locked in a prison but not realizing that you're in a prison, whatever that quote is. That's what this is reminding me of, where you may have been like looking around thinking that something was totally normal, like not realizing, and now it feels like you're realizing something that you hadn't seen. And again, for some of you with Page of Pentacles, this can be you getting help with this, but help can come in many ways. It can come in many forms. The other feeling that I get too with Page of Pentacles above the devil is that this can be something where, as far as life experience is concerned with this particular thing, it can be something that, but like you've been navigating this, but it may not be something that you feel like totally like qualified to navigate this type of experience, but this is what you are gaining through going through this experience. Because Page of Pentacles is when we're figuring something out, and sometimes we can look around and be like, wow, I wish I had somebody to guide me through here. I wish I had somebody that had the answers, and you're turning into the individual that has the answers for a process like this by going through a process like this and finding your way, which means too that you can take missteps sometimes, but that you learn from it. So is it really a misstep at the end of the day? At the same time, with Page of Pentacles, it kind of feels like you get pushed out into the world where you have to figure out things yourself, and you can be like, I still don't totally understand how this works, or I don't totally know how to do this, and I'm very much finding my way, but I don't feel totally like I've totally mastered this yet. And I feel like this has to do with something in the material realm. So it can be with like your resources, we can say, because resources can be finances, it can be your health, it can be your body, it can be how to do certain skills, lots of different things. It's going to be related to the earth element. And we're seeing the sign of Capricorn here, so this can be whatever placements you might have in Capricorn, or it can be whatever house Capricorn rules within your birth chart. That may be the area where there's a focus. Or this can have to do, or this can have to do with your Saturn placement. And realizations that you're making here of what the bigger picture is. Yeah, I do get this feeling that this wasn't something that you were totally aware of, but now you are. And so now it feels like the real work begins. But this realization was important. It's like, coming back to this quote, it's like if you don't realize that you're in a cage, you don't realize that you're not free, something like that. I feel like this is, the sentiment of this is coming in bits and pieces, and I feel like that mirrors this situation as well. I think too, looking at the devil and the Three of Swords, whatever the devil was, it could have put to ease something that wasn't being dealt with, so you didn't have to fully face it. See how the devil is facing away from the Three of Swords? The Three of Swords can be something that's lingering there and been lingering that hasn't been addressed and hasn't been dealt with, and this has maybe been allowing you to not have to deal with this, but if you're going to pull yourself out of the cage, you're going to have to deal with this. And what you can be realizing is that maybe that's why there was a draw to this in the first place. Because if you're in there with the cage, it feels like even though you're caged, it couldn't get to you. So if you're coming out of there, you're going to have to face this. And who wants to face the Three of Swords? But at this point, you can be like, well, I think facing that and moving through it is going to be better than staying within here, and that may be the choice that you're going to make now, which means that if you're going to liberate yourself from this, there may be something painful that has to be addressed here, but this is also the way through to heal this situation entirely. I feel as well like you're having a bit of a spiritual awakening here. Okay, so this wound, it seems like it's associated with holding on to things even like to your own detriment. And this can be like wanting to control, not wanting to let go. Even when it's not the best thing for you to be holding on. This can be being too rigid as well. And I feel too, like when we have pages, Page of Pentacles, for example, pages are not supposed to be rigid because they're still in the process of learning. So if a page is rigid, they're just staying as a page. There's no developing there. It's like a 2-year-old that just stops learning at that point. Like there's so much more development to be had. So when we're in that position of a page, there needs to be development. But if we are holding on like this, if we are not being flexible, there's nothing else that's happening beyond that point. There's no development. And so that can also be a theme that's coming up. Maybe you're realizing like, wow, I got stuck back there and I've been stuck in this same thing. Nothing has been moving, nothing has been changing, nothing has been growing. It's been the same thing. And it's because I've been holding on. So whatever this is that you're working through, that you're realizing that you're working through, that you're moving through, and I feel like this comes back to whatever this is over here. I'm hearing light code. Whatever this is over here that's being recognized with these light rays, I'm seeing you moving through something that I feel like for a long time you hadn't been moving through this. It will feel like a long time to you anyway. Because I feel like saying that is like somewhat subjective. Some of us can feel like 3 days is a long time. Sometimes we look at something that's been going on for a year. In retrospect, it feels like it was a long time. So I do feel like something very important is going on here. And I feel like this is something that's been a thorn in your side for quite some time, that maybe you were just like, well, this is just what it is, and it like actually doesn't have to be like that, and it didn't have to be like that, and now you're getting to the point where this is something that you're realizing. But when you get scared, intimidated, anxious, worried, future thinking, you have a tendency to like clam up here, to close, to shut down, and to even turn off. This can be something where you feel like you just get stuck and you're not really going anywhere. It's like the wheel's turning, but it's stuck in the mud, and so there's like no traction at all. And you just stay in that same spot. So I feel too like this is teaching you that if you want to develop past this point, you're going to need to be flexible here. You can't just hold on to everything and be like, it has to stay the same, because it's not meant to. And this is going to help you move through. And I feel too like your mind is going to become your own again, where the devil has hijacked it. So this can be some type of like fear narration. I'm getting confirmation of this. That's very much hijacked something here that encourages you to be rigid and to just hold on to things. And I feel like this hunkering down energy. But also being in a situation that you're like, I don't want to be in this situation though, but then you're keeping everything exactly the same. And goes around and around and around again. Yeah, I'm getting all of this. The only court cards here that we have, all of them, all three of them, they're pentacles. We have Page of Pentacles, we have Queen of Pentacles, now we have King of Pentacles coming out. This can be some type of thing having to do with your, I'm hearing influence. It can have to do with your resources strongly. It can have to do with your everyday strongly. It can have to do with your reputation. It can have to do with the roles that you play. This can be something where it was like, I never had a King of Pentacles to be looking out for me and showing me the way and like teaching me how to invest or work with my resources. And now this is helping. For some of you, I'm hearing father wound. This is something that you're coming back to, so you can develop yourself as the King of Pentacles. So that's what's happening here. King of Pentacles is an energy that's going to be able to be self-sufficient, independent. And I'm seeing the feminine and the masculine energy that are connecting. We have Queen of Pentacles above King of Pentacles. And these are not two different people. This is all your own energy. But you can be living this out through dynamics with others. Some of you, there's a child involved as well, or a younger being. But I'm seeing there also be a separation here. And for some of you too, you can recognize this as your inner child, where something happened back there where you got stuck. Because I'm seeing it be connected with the devil, and there was no moving on from that point, that you're coming back around to this. And there's going to be maturation from this point forward so things can evolve. So rather than looking around for this energy, you are going to become it. And rather than sacrificing things, making adjustments you don't want to make, this is going to be you embodying this. So you're learning how to rely on yourself. But it's something that the fear and the avoidance and the not wanting to have to deal with this, because it means too, like maybe the devil's a situation that there's part of you that's like, I feel like comfortable within this, even though your soul is like, I do not like this, get me out of here. But you can be like, we can just deal with it, which I feel like is a shadow of Capricorn, because Capricorn is an energy, like those of us that have placements in Capricorn that you can really feel, or you have strong Saturn in your chart, we need to learn the difference between just like grinning and bearing it and being able to deal with a situation versus could things be better and you're just being too rigid here. Because I feel like with the energy of Capricorn, it's like I can survive through this. I can survive through the absolute worst conditions, but there may be other alternatives to that you can actually get to experience. Like this, you don't need to be suffering needlessly. So I think being in that place of recognition, like, are you putting yourself through unnecessary things here? Being like, I can deal with it, but do you think that you should be doing that? Is that what your better judgment is saying? Just because you can deal with something doesn't mean that you need to be. I just feel like that Capricorn energy can be suffering when you don't need to be, and needing to know your limits. Just because you can ignore your emotions or ignore what your body's saying and push through it, to do that constantly. Sometimes there are situations, Capricorn is a strong energy. Sometimes there are situations where we can get to that point of thriving because we're pushing through. Sometimes it's about not ignoring those signals that you're getting, but tuning into them and listening. It's not about pushing all the time in that way. Pushing your feelings aside, pushing the messages that you're getting aside just because you can deal with it. So I think like knowing what is necessary sacrifice versus unnecessary sacrifice. Something else that's coming through with that energy of Capricorn as well is this, like, this may just be what I'm supposed to be doing. Sometimes that is the case. Sometimes we're actively making a choice that is reinforcing that. So I think this is also something that's coming up too, is it really like the universe keeping you in that position, or is it you actively choosing to be within that? Where if you were to open up here and look at some more avenues, you would actually choose differently. And I also think part of this energy too can be holding on to something, staying within a situation and being like, well, I'm just playing it safe here, when you're staying stuck. And there's a part of you that's saying, let's move through this. I want to develop. You're not meant to stay stuck here. And what this is doing is it is illuminating where you are meant to be, continuing to move, where I feel like at one point in time you were traveling down a path and then something happened where it stopped. And you've been there. And even though there's been movement, it feels like you haven't been moving out of that spot. And now is the time where something has clicked and you're actually going to be able to cover ground now in a way that you hadn't been. Because I'm getting whatever it was that had happened, it's like you hit this spot. And even though the wheels have been turning, they've been stuck in the mud and you haven't been going anywhere. And this is the moment where you realize, if I go grab that sand over there and put it over the wheels, put it under the wheels, I'm going to be able to actually get out of here. I just had to do that, and I'm going to be able to move now. And I feel like this is making things very obvious now at this point, seeing Sun with Page of Wands. Like, now this is clicking. Now I'm understanding. Now I'm seeing. Because I really do get this feeling of like traveling down that road and then the wheels aren't moving because you get to that spot in the mud where you're stuck in the mud. And, well, the wheels are moving, but they're not going anywhere, okay? And you could have been like, well, I guess it's just supposed to be like this right now, you know? Like, this is what's supposed to be happening. I'm just, like, going with the flow here. Meanwhile, you were meant to go look around and see that there's sand over there to put underneath the tires. And we've just been waiting for that to happen. And that's actually what this has been about. But I feel like until that moment clicks, Like you cannot realize and think like, oh, everything's fine. And you're like, I'm waiting around and waiting around and waiting around. Like I'm looking around at the same stuff over and over again. Nothing's really changing. And this just feels like a really important moment here where this key piece, like, it just feels like it hits you. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I not see it? It just feels very obvious at that point. And I think too that this has to do with like some sort of like flaw in the thinking that's being realized here. Where like maybe you were looking around and being like, if I get out of this vehicle right now, like what could happen? And so even though it's like you're gonna stay there, if you need to like get out and see what happens, you know, like get out and go look around and see what you can do about this. But I feel like there was a like knowing potentially that you could get out of the vehicle when the wheels stopped allowing you to go anywhere, but there was a just like staying inside there like waiting that was happening. Now I feel like I just feel like there's this realization that's come now where you're like, oh, I have to be the one to get out of there. It's like the game has been like on pause this whole time. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing be going on here. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.